through your freedom.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
What a day, what a week. It has really hit the fan. And guess what, folks? Politicians, they don't know shit about shit hitting the fan. They don't seem to realize where we're at, or they do, and they pretend like they don't, and they act stupid and continue to make really bad decisions. Well, maybe that's the case, right? Maybe they're just pretending to be this stupid. Well, it really would be nice to know, don't you think? Hey, it is time for the monologue followed by the question and answer. Get your questions into Jolene. It's Thursday. That means tomorrow is Free for All Friday. That means Sunday will be Sunday Night Live at the zoo. But for now, it's a regular day. And if you're on Patreon, folks, well, if you're on YouTube, you better hit subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. But if you're on Patreon, you can join us Monday through Friday for live Q&A. As the week goes, you have full permission. Doesn't cost any more money. It's all part of the subscription. You can just put your questions in. So do it. Do it now. Get those questions into Jolene. And thank you to Jolene for all that you do. Ooh, man, the whole gang, folks, behind the scenes. We got an entire troop of people behind the scenes. Mr. T is out there, the guy who's responsible for these really catchy little promos. He's actually in the business of relocating. A lot of people are doing that now, folks, relocating. Now, where do we start? I mean, I have an entire, as usual, list of stuff to talk about. A list, literal list. Just incredible amounts of stuff, right? How do we start? Where do we go? Let's start with this. Let's just pick one out of the bag. Let's see. The United States government. When they say that, I just have to laugh now because they're morons. They don't know shit. They have now hit over 400 more Russian individuals and Russian businesses with new sanctions. Even more sanctions, right? Hey, that's really going to help, don't you think? Right? Let's see, a fresh sanctions package targeting Russian oligarchs, hundreds of lawmakers, as well as defense companies. I didn't know that that sanctions could go stale, like day-old sanctions, stale sanctions, moldy sanctions. These are fresh sanctions. Love how they word things so it makes it sound fresh, right? Folks, we've got Biden over in Brussels. We got the G7 meeting, and it's part of what's been described in Brussels as severe costs against Russia and the consequences, right? Because, Russia's got to be made to suffer for years to come, right? It also comes as the U.S. is pushing the G7 partners and the European Union to agree to a plan that they have for greatly reducing European energy dependence on Russia. Well, this is ridiculous, folks. Has Europe, and especially Germany, publicly admitted that they cannot literally, folks, operate their businesses in countries? They can't operate businesses. They can't operate the countries, folks, without Russian gas and oil. They can't do it. There's no one will replace that much. They rely on it so heavily. The United States buys Russian oil, but it's a small percentage of what we need. It's the most we've ever gotten from them, but a small percentage. But Europe cannot deal without it. So what this is, folks, over 400 new sanctions. It's dipshit posturing, folks, and it's going to create dipshit results, right? There was this, this movie character, and he used to say, "Stupid is as stupid does," right? Yeah. We got Forrest Gump in the White House, folks. Unbelievable. Now, speaking of Forrest Gump in the White House, in California, Gavin Newsom wants to give the people $400 to help pay for more expensive gas. Once again, this is them laundering money, actually laundering the deficit, laundering the collapse, laundering the failure, paying back the banks. We see people need to buy gas, so they borrow money with their credit cards. They got to pay that back, and they can't do it. They're running out of money again. So the government's going to give more money, and that money goes to the banks. Once again, everything is a bailout. Well, not to be outdone by dumbass Gavin Newsom, right? Not to be outdone, President Biden says that the United States government is going to give out $300 in gas. Now, is that $300 a month? Is that $300 for the year? You know, I'm not counting on anything from these people, folks. It's another one of these. Okay, everyone's upset. We're gonna let off on the mask requirements in 3 months, and then we get to 3 months and like, nope, we're gonna extend it. It's always a lie. It's always more bullshit from these people. Literally, bullshit. Now, unbelievable. Thank you, Newsom. Thank you, Biden. You're making my point for me every day. Well, let's switch over to free speech. In Australia, doesn't exist. In England, hardly there. In America, well, yeah, now they're really coming down on us, folks. You aren't allowed to criticize politicians, corporations, or special interest groups. It tells you, folks, who is on the right and who is on the take. Well, in Germany, folks, their super secret squirrel police are conducting massive raids over online insults against elected officials. This is Germany, and we're going to get back to Germany and what Germany thinks of other countries and how they treat their people. This is in Germany, folks. So insulting, berating, making fun of, or even criticizing politicians is now a crime because they feel hated, right? The basis for the investigations and these mass raids is a section of their criminal code, and it makes insults, slander, and defamation of people in public life, and particularly politics, folks, punishable, right? So to take or restrict a free man's life, actions, or businesses is 100% a violation, and it should be punished civilly and have a criminal sanction as well, right? Like they can insult us, they can take our rights, our life, our money, everything else, right? And that's perfectly fine, right? It's just incredible, folks. This is, I would call this Hitler-esque, this BS Hitler-esque statute, taking into consideration, right, any politician or bureaucrat, right, should be guilty of a crime. If we're going to have them, if we can't insult them, then they should not be able to either propose or merely mention any rule that would violate any right held by people individually, right? In all cases, folks, in all of history, all governments are always the aggressors against people and their liberties. It has always been the threat, government. Government has always been the risk, and it's always been the danger to peace and prosperity. It's times like this that we really find out, right, that they want to protect themselves and they want to punish us. The United States, folks, is not far behind. I think we need to keep that in mind. Right? Canada, you have to address people by their preferred pronoun. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can suck it. Anyways, get this. Back to Germany. There's a politician there named Christine Marguerite Anderson, German politician. She's a member of the Alternative for Germany party, and that, folks, is the Liberty Freedom Party in Germany. Anyways, two officials today, and she's one of them, stood up and called out Justin Trudeau to his face, right? Folks, it's really not Russia and China versus the US and European Union. It's the free world versus the globalist tyrants and their political pets, people like Justin Trudeau, people like the German government, which wants to silence people, right? You're not allowed to criticize them. Well, get this, right? Christine Marguerite Anderson decides to call Justin Trudeau, who's over there as part of this G7 meeting. She says, quote, then again, a prime minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this house at all. In other words, Mr. Trudeau is not welcome in Germany's government to be over there visiting and then talking a bunch of trash about Russia when he himself is a tyrant. So she says and continues, Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace to democracy. Please spare us your presence. Well, that woman's got some stones, huh? She also needs to look at her own country. Yeah, you can't criticize politicians. They call that hate. And now they're raiding their own people. Perhaps she didn't get that news release. Folks, we need more strong patriots who are lovers of liberty, not pandering liars, serving the money masters, right? This is our battle. You and me as patriots, Americans, this is our battle, our SHTF war for freedom. There's a lot of shit going wrong, folks. Are you ready? Right down here, down there we go, thepreparedmind.club. That's your store. Check it out. Get prepared. So on top of this German politician, Croatian was there and said Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau is acting like a dictator of the worst kind. He also spoke up, said that to his face. When are they going to say that to Biden? When are they going to call Biden out for his dirty double dealings in Ukraine? Everybody knows it, folks. Do you think you and I have a secret that only you and I know about Hunter going over there, that only you and I know about Hunter in Moscow, Hunter in China, that only you and I know about Hillary Clinton's pay-to-play scheme that she ran as Secretary of State under Biden? No, they actually know. But are they going to do something? It's always easy to look over across the fence and criticize that politician over there. That's why it's so easy to criticize Russia. They've always been the bastard child of the world, right? They became very powerful, though, in the Industrial Revolution, right, under the Soviet Union. Yep. But, yeah, everyone loves to accuse the other guy of being bad, but kind of hard to turn that on yourself. It's called introspection. Interesting folks. Interesting shit, folks. All right, get your questions into Jolene. We're going to get to you next. All right, I've got the first half hour monologue. And folks, while speaking today in Europe, President Xi Biden just mentioned, he says, food shortages are, quote, going to be real. Food shortages are going to be real as the necessary price of the anti-Russian sanctions. Remember how they said there's no inflation? Well, first, let me just take you back a couple of years, okay? Back to the beginning of the Cerveza crisis. There was no inflation, and the Federal Reserve, through Chairman Powell, said they want inflation. Their target was 2% inflation. Or was it 2.5%? That's what they wanted to see. A 2.5% punishment to Americans so that their cash, if they dared have any in the bank, would lose purchasing power, 2.5%. And they kept saying there's just not enough. There's not enough inflation. We got inflation now, don't we? Wasn't Federal Reserve policy supposed to create that inflation? The printing of money, cash, lots of liquidity, easy loans, low interest rates. All of that was supposed to create, folks, a lot more money being put in circulation, a lot more velocity, and create that inflation. Well, how do you like me now is what Powell should be saying. Same with Biden and everyone else. all these modern monetary theory idiots. They're printing money, folks, to pay the bills. And you and I get to pay the fiddler. Yeah, there are going to be, I don't want to use the term food shortages, right? How about there is going to be less of a glut of food? How about there are going to be interruptions in food supply? Certain sectors of the food market will not see the same high amounts of harvest, also known as yield. I think yields will be down because farmers will lose or use less fertilizer, because fertilizer is going to be more expensive because of all the fuckery that's been going on. But in any way you look at this, any way you wrap it up, how you bundle it, package it, it's going to be set right there on a table for everybody. And Biden's going to tell you this is Russia's fault. Everything is Russia's fault. That way, Biden's not responsible. The states aren't responsible. The Federal Reserve, Nancy Pelosi, they're not responsible. It's all Russia's fault. And, of course, it's the necessary price of fighting this battle. In other words, it's your patriotic duty to put up with food shortages or a lower supply, tighter supply chains, occasional shortages in markets, occasional interruptions, occasional, what do they call that? Rationing. That's right. You go in and you want 5 pounds of hamburger for your family. You're only allowed 2. You want some pork chops? We've got none. Right? You want some chicken? You're allowed 1 pound. Days like that are coming, folks. And the pound you buy, well, you're going to pay for 2 pounds. I'm sorry. You're going to buy 2 pounds, but you're going to pay for 5. That's going to be the inflation. It's coming, folks. You know, we have to fight tooth and nail for everything. Now, and I think that is up and down the board. Hey, President Trump, he has to fight tooth and nail, folks. I still wonder about this guy. You know, he just did such a great job of pissing the left off. They've attacked him and everything. He now is suing Hillary Clinton, and he is suing many others for RICO violations, racketeering over the Russia collusion hoax. Hillary Clinton, the Steele dossier, the FBI. It's come out now. The information is out. They made it all up. They lied. They did it intentionally. I believe Trump can sue them. I believe he should. And I would like to see him sue the mainstream media for continuing their Russia narrative, saying he was peeing on or being peed on by Russian hookers. I mean, just the most ridiculous shit. In fact, I think he won a $300,000 lawsuit against Stormy Daniels, the porn star. And she's like, I'll go to jail before I pay him. Well, she's got to get money out of Michael Avenatti, her attorney, who stole from her as well. You know, you need to be careful, I guess, about the team you pick, the team you want to side on. It's incredible, huh? I mean, if you think you're joining a fight to make a bunch of money, it's one thing, right? To be where you need to be morally, if you need to be centered, right? Morally centered, your moral compass is good, then you're fine, right? We're all going to get our asses kicked in SHTF, folks. We're all going to be taken down a few notches. So if that's going to happen, I'd rather be morally sound. These people don't care, and they're going to pay, folks. They're going to pay. They're going to pay us at the bottom and at the top as well. I've been talking about this for weeks now, months, even years, but it's really come into play the last week. And now, folks, the mainstream media, the economic, financial geeks, they're starting to catch on, and they're asking the question, will Russia back the ruble with gold? Right? Russia and China have been collecting massive amounts of gold, buying it off the market, mining it in their own countries, and not letting any of it, folks, any of it get out. On the street for you and me, go ahead and go to SD Bullion or go to thepreparedmind.club to SD Bullion. You want to buy some silver? I recommend buying silver. That's the people's money, regular Joe's, right? Take a look at the price. Take a look at the availability, right? You can't, it's getting harder and harder to get. It's almost done. Countries, the same story. Banks are buying it up. And Russia's now said, look, hey, if you want to buy our Russian oil, and folks, Europe has to, right? You need to buy it with rubles. Do you think Putin is going to allow? Do you think Putin's going to allow them to buy rubles, to trade them for paper money, right? You got Powell over here going, spitting money out of the paper machine. He's like, yeah, that's valuable. Think Putin's going to accept that in exchange for rubles so that they can then turn around and buy oil? There's your precious metals link, SD Bullion. Very good. Thank you, Jolene. Yeah, we have a link, folks. A lot of times you can get special deals from SD Bullion through the preparedmind.club. If you've got food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, if you got that stuff covered, then you still got cash. A lot of people are saying it's a good idea to have silver and gold. I say it often to myself, John, if you ever get your hands on some money, you need to get some more silver. We got a nice little stack. And over the years, you guys have actually sent me silver coins. Don't want to mention any names, but it's been pretty cool getting different stuff from you guys. Anyways, back to the ruble, back to gold, back to the gold standard. The first country that does it, folks, is going to cause a stampede of terror all over the banks to back the ruble with gold, to say, 2,000 rubles is an ounce of gold. They can tie the ruble to a barrel of oil and say this many rubles for a barrel of oil, this many rubles for an ounce of gold. And all of a sudden you have a gold and oil backed currency. What is American currency backed by? Oh, the full faith and credit of the American people. Really? Really, really? Is it good for everything? Oh, it's good for all things, public and private debt. Well, if you have too much cash, the government's going to want to know where you got it. Right? They're going to lock up your bank account. Right? US dollars, who wants them? They're too much trouble, too much hassle for other countries. Not when Russia can trade for its oil for, or sell its rubles for gold. The potential of this coming, folks, is huge. China has been wanting a piece of this as well, right? They're talking about introducing cryptocurrencies, right? We need to have central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. We need to have those. We really need to have that. Well, the people are saying we need to have sound money. Putin is saying we're not accepting the dollar anymore. Expect an announcement soon, folks. It's very, very, very interesting. Now, speaking of other interesting things going on, this one cracked me up. I put a link to it out there today. There's a comedian, I call him a comedian philosopher, Cassidy Campbell. He dressed up like a woke liberal knucklehead and put on an acting debut in front of a city council and the mayor, right? Showing their contradictory hypocrisy, stupidity, etc. It was really quite incredible. I hope you got to watch it. Some of the things he said were outrageous, right? We should have, one of the things that got me, that like right off the bat, says we should have a nuclear war with Russia because if we can save just one life in Ukraine by doing that. At the end, he also was, he screamed, yelled, cried, ranted. It was hilarious making fun of these knuckleheads. At the end, he took a knee for George Floyd and said he hates himself because he's white. It was absolutely a riot to watch. The city council didn't know what to make of it. People are beginning to fight back, folks, in ways that make sense to them. Whether it is right? Comedy, satire, whether it's anger and frustration, so they protest, people are starting to wake up and they're pissed off. And this was a big deal, folks. I can't leave this one alone. Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? The Democrats' favorite pick for Supreme Court, the Supreme Court nominee to go to the United States Supreme Court, couldn't define the word woman. And so this was great. Ted Cruz, who is a vacillating, waving in the wind wimp. At least he found some manhood to ask her this. Could I decide I was an Asian man? Because she couldn't define a woman. So he took it to the next level, which is, what they don't want to do is say, well, we're not going to say that people can't identify as another gender and then make other people deal with it, make other people accept it. Right? My name's John, but I can't force anyone to call me John. They can call me Frank or Jack or Jackass if they wanted. I can't stop them or make them do anything. And to refuse to call me John is no crime either. Well, in Canada, as mentioned earlier, yeah, you don't call someone by their preferred pronoun, you can be charged with a hate crime. Don't laugh, folks, right? Politicians in America would love to be just like Canada and tell you how you have to believe. And someone like Ketanji Jackson would love to take us deeper down that SHTF rabbit hole. So, yeah, they don't want to say you can't identify as another gender because, well, if I can identify as another gender, can I identify as another race? Can I identify as an inanimate object, right? Well, let's just stick with humans for now, right? So Senator Cruz, right, said that, and I can say I might identify as an Asian Black woman born in Mexico, right? Hey, if I can identify as another gender, why not another race? And then why not identify as being from another country, right? Right, so I could identify as an Asian Black woman born in Mexico. I'm also a tranny. I identify as that, and I identify as a gay person. Why not, folks? If anyone could pretend to be and force others to accept any single one of those things, why not claim all of them at once and force the government to accept it and, pay out money too? Why not? Right? Where's my reparations? Where's my free stuff? Where's my shit? Because I'm from Mexico, right? Certainly, folks, if I could claim any one of those things was a reality, being a woman, for example, then just as assuredly, I could revert back or even change into something else at any time, right? Who is to say how long or what anyone has to identify as, right? See, that's this, it's not the false logic, slippery slope argument. They demonstrated that this is the direction they're going. They want to destroy our culture and our country, and this is how they're doing it. And this idiot woman who supposedly is a lawyer, supposedly is a judge, and is being put up for the Supreme Court cannot even define what a woman is. That's the world we live in, folks. This big question, right? Politics, politicians, they don't know shit, and they don't know shit about SHTF. They really don't. It's almost like they don't care. They don't give a shit. It's unbelievable. And one more thing I want to get into here, right? Eric Greitens, he was the former governor for Missouri. I believe it was Missouri. He released a video because dirtbag ex-FBI agent smeared and framed him has now pled guilty to evidence tampering. So I have 2 points on this I want to bring up with you. Right? These filthy left-wing radical socialists and their judges, right? The judges are part of the government. They're part of the political system. They're appointed by politicians. They're approved by politicians. They enforce rules the politicians create, right? That's what this Ketanji Brown is all about. Jackson Brown. That's what this is all about. It's not about her color or her gender. It's about her policy. It's not the gender, it's the agenda. So these filthy socialist folks are everywhere. They've infiltrated government at every level. And they have been more than willing to lie, cheat, and steal, right? Which has been verbally admitted to as well as publicly obvious in our recent history, right? They will lie, cheat, and steal. Additionally, they will meet and conspire to destroy their opponents with false crimes, manufactured evidence, perjurious testimony, and bribes to witnesses and officials. Eric Greitens resigned from office over all of the lies. This ex-FBI agent met with another group, conspired on how to publicly persecute this guy, Eric Greitens, to come up with lies, to leave out information, to add information, right? Evidence tampering, in other words. So now he's trying to make it publicly known. This is what's going on. So yeah, this is what they're doing, folks, to everyone. And number two, if the scum commies, the same ones that kicked him out, if they can have and are proven to commit heinous legal crimes against a Republican governor, how easy and how willing are they to do it to one of us, one of you? If faced with arrest and prosecution for BS charges and crimes that they made up and conspired to do, why would anyone allow themselves to be arrested today? Right? It takes years to gain your freedom. Eric Greitens is a great example. How about General Flynn? How about Roger Stone? Right? Even for the most powerful and wealthy people, it takes years to get through the legal troubles the government creates. Oh, they say you may beat us in court, but we're going to screw you all the way and it's going to cost you big time, right? That little cute saying they got, right? You may beat the rat, but you'll never beat the ride. That's the game they play, folks. Right? It doesn't cost them a thing unless you got a really good lawyer. And even then, folks, even then. Tell you what, I've gone past my half hour. I've gotten into your question and answer time. So we're going to flip on over. We're going to flip on over to your time. What do you want to talk about?
Are you ready?
Wow. Now, not only, folks, are we going to do Q&A. If you want, you can do Stump the John, where you tell a lie, tell a truth, put two sentences up, see if I can pick out which one is which. Oliver did a great one there. Terrific, Jolene. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get your questions in, and we will answer them. I've got a lot to talk about. You've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot to consider out here, folks. So, David says, I'm seeing more and more preppers comment, I'm done trying to wake people up, or, quote, if I tell them to prepare, they will know that I'm a prepper. But those unprepared families and neighbors will eventually have to be dealt with one way or another. Read the history. They will show up at your door. Better to get them prepared now. And that really is the fundamental basis of telling your neighbors, if you can. If you know them, you know, you may not just want to come out and say, hey, I'm a prepper and I got 5 months or 5 years worth of food. You don't tell them that. But being able to speak with people, you know, friends, family, neighbors, loved ones, coworkers, being able to talk to them and say, get prepared. And of course, we've all heard, well, shit, I'm coming to your place, John. I've heard that. I heard it for years. They just said, I'm coming to your place. I was like, I'm checking out. I'm going to the RMZ, right? And then I've headed to the South. That's where I'm at now, right? It was like, you aren't going to find me. You don't get to come and get my food. You don't get to live off of me. See, that's kind of the entitled mentality, right? The idea that I know somebody who can take care of me. Rugged individualism, something I talked about this morning, is incredibly key, right? Now, you may want to go to these people instead of saying, get prepared. right? Don't say I'm a prepper, you should get prepared. How about this? Hey, Bill, you and Margaret ought to take a look at the cost of gas. Oh, you know about the gas. You and Margaret ought to take a look at the cost of a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, a dozen eggs, a pound of meat. Don't you think it might be a good idea, if food's going to continue to go up, that you get a few months worth of food at today's prices? Right? And then in a year, in 6 months or 3 months, as prices continue to go up, that food is going to serve you well. Because you're buying it today, it's expensive, but in a few months, it's going to look cheap compared to the new price way up here. You bought it here, the new price is this, right? So that difference, the delta, that's your money you save, right? So yeah, let's see, buy cans of stew, buy cans of beans, buy bags of rice, buy some long-term food storage, some emergency supplies, you could call it. And that supplies you can end up eating, right? Yeah, prepping. How do we describe it? How do we talk about it? Now, I understand frustration, folks. A lot of people are like, I'm tired of that, John. How about this? I've been telling people, folks, on the internet since December of 2013. I've been saying, get prepared. We know that the system is coming apart. It's going to take time to get everything you need in order. You may as well start today. Right? We could have an event that causes really bad trouble. You know, like Fukushima caused a lot of trouble for a lot of people. Right? Power outages, hurricanes caused trouble for a lot of people. Planes flying into buildings, that's a problem for a lot of people. Wars, etc. But for the most part, we've been just following this downward move. Things slowly getting worse. The money slowly becoming worthless. Inflation slowly going, and now it's about to take off, rocket ship. Right? We've got problems. They're not getting better. Right? Is everyone ready? Great topic, David. Yeah, we need to continue to tell people, maybe not tell them to get prepared, but tell them they better get some food on the shelves. Not to panic. Panic is not required, right? We don't want people to panic. And then mention, hey, would you like it? For the people that go, I'm coming to your house, man, I'm going to eat your food. And it's like, well, would you like people coming to your house today to eat food? Right? What makes you think anyone's going to be happier about that when there's very, very hard times out there? They won't be happy about it. In fact, they're going to be pretty pissed off if anyone tries to steal their stuff. All righty, get your questions in. We've got Sally Sue, and she says, knowing what we know right now, what do you think was the trigger that set this ball rolling? Was it Cerveza bug or something earlier than that? Boy, are we talking the medical ball, the military ball, the financial, economic, monetary ball? Right, the military ball. Oh, there's a lot of balls rolling around, right? There's a lot of plates spinning on sticks. The trigger has always been corruption. That's really what has triggered all this, folks. Corruption's been around since the beginning of time. When nations get rid of tyrants, right? When they get rid of tyrants and they free themselves of this corruption or corruptive influence, there's freedom and prosperity. When people hang or behead a king or a dictator, they realize I'm free. And the other politicians realize there's a penalty when you cross the line. And so people, for a time, get to live free. But the corruption is always there. The corruption in the medical system. Well, instead of healing people, let's just create a bunch of drugs, convince them that they need to take them, cause more problems, right? You see an advertisement for a medication on TV. It fixes one problem, but the symptoms say there's 5 problems after you take the drug. Whoops, right? So the big trigger, though, that they've been fighting off, we had the big stock market crash of 2008. Right, led to the great blah 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 recession. They didn't want to use the term depression. They started printing money like crazy. Right? The financial system failed. The housing market was overblown. There's so much out there that failed. They were able to paper that over, print paper off, with the old printing press. And they put the money out there, and it worked for a time. Hell, it worked for 10 years in all truth, until 2019, when the corruption, the greed, the theft, the graft, the extortion, the failure in general of fiat money systems, those roosters, those chickens came home to roost, right? And in September of 2019, that was a big month. Banks quit lending to each other. It's not that they didn't trust us, it's they didn't even trust each other. So interbank lending failed. That, my friends, is an economic or financial collapse, because the only one who would fill the gap was the Federal Reserve, the money printing people. That went on for several months and could not correct itself. Several months, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and that's cerveza bug. Yeah, we got 7 months on my hands. It's actually, half of September and half of March. 6 months almost to the day. Cerveza bug was announced to be the pandemic, and we should all be afraid, right? We should all lock ourselves up. That's really what triggered the Great Reset. Well, the money systems failed. Everything's failing. We may as well just throw out everything and start again. But they know they can't throw out everything. They've got to take everything down a piece at a time. Take down the monetary system. Take down the social system. Take down the military. Take down the law, the Constitution. Right? Folks, did you know that government literally hates the Constitution? It's true. They hate it. Go into court, go into traffic court and mention the Constitution to the judge. See how much he likes you. No, he's not going to like you at all. Not at all. Right? In fact, you may be told you're going to be held in contempt of court if you mention the Constitution too much, because they don't care and they don't want to hear about it. That's not the system they're working with. Right? They want to bring the entire system down so they can introduce the new, folks, the new system, the Great Reset. Biden called it the New World Order. Yeah, we've heard that before. And we heard it from lots of politicians, going all the way back to George H.W. Bush back in 1989. Woohoo, New World Order. And, well, Biden wants to be the leader. Incredible. Thank you, Sally Sue, very much for that answer. And I got to tell you, folks, while we're talking Jim Jones juice, cerveza bug, I want to tell you about something. Hey, folks, at the Prepared Mind channel, we take your health very seriously. That's why we recommend the Jim Jones juice. That's right, the Jim Jones juice. Get yourself a can today.
Just the friendly homes of America are always prepared for hospitality. Not only on Thanksgiving Day, but every day, all the year around. No matter who comes to call or who happens to drop in.
There's nothing like hitting the Jim Jones juice, laying one down, and feeling that stuff enter your bloodstream. Oh.
Did Bill leave his pop and candy only half eaten? No, sir.
Oh, heart attack. Defibrillator. Clot. Don't forget, call an ambulance when you get your Jim Jones juice, because it's that good.
That really was the big kickoff, though. Cerveza bug, Jim Jones juice, and they're still pushing the juice, folks, and the juice booster, right? The little booster rooster still out there pushing it. They don't want to give that up. No one, folks. I mean, no one. I know Democrats. I know Republicans. I see them all the time. None of them wear masks. None of them even mention it, folks. But you know, every couple of weeks, I guess they got to go get the old juice boost. Make sure that, you know, their immune system is good. It's incredible. Give me 1 second on Eli there, Jolene. I just had to say, anyone guesses? Anyone, right? An LA marathon runner died after suffering a major heart attack at the finish line. Once again, marathon runners, folks, they can run 26 miles. Do you think they just wake up one day and they're like 500 pounds? They're like, fuck it, I'm running a marathon today. No, it's months and years of training to become a marathon runner. Now they're dying of heart attacks. Didn't we have the bicyclist who dropped out? He's like, Bicyclist, tennis stars, soccer players keeling over, young folks, old folks, medium folks. Yeah, folks, politicians don't really know shit. And the experts they rely on, yeah, how's that working for the people who are just keeling over? Anyways, I just had to bring that up. I had to bring it up and say, hey, what's your guess? Why do you think a marathon runner had a massive heart attack and died at the finish line of a marathon? Unbelievable. All right, let's get back to Eli now, Jolene, if you will. And Eli in the Wolverine state has this to say. Rochester schools paid $188,750 to settle a lawsuit accusing the district of collecting a dossier of parents critical of school policies and calling one parent's employer. Is that one parent the person who's got the settlement in the lawsuit? Number one, I'm glad. I don't know what insurance policy a school has for being a bunch of jackasses, but I'm glad that somebody got sued. They should lose their jobs as well. I mean, let's just think about it. A school is a place that I remember where as a child, as a kid, as a young man, I had my little book bag, a little tote bag, a backpack. I had my Trapper Keeper file folder with my notes in it. I go to school to learn. The school was there to provide information for me to learn. At no point ever did the school say, you know what, we need to know more about the parents of these kids. We need to have folders, dossiers, if you will, on parents. Unbelievable, folks, that they would look at parents and say, we need to spy on them and get information on them. That's the world we live in, folks. Never mind educating your kid. Well, they'll teach them how to put a condom on a banana. They'll teach them that being white is evil. And they'll teach them that, well, cutting your genitals off is probably the best thing for you. Unbelievable. And by the way, hate your parents, hate your country, and go get your Jim Jones juice. Yeah. I think more parents should be suing schools for violating their rights as parents, for violating their rights, right, to raise their own children. There should be a way to sue schools for damaging the psyche of children with all this fear tactics bullshit, as well as converting good, sane, normal human beings into young communists. Once again, folks, politicians, they have an agenda. And they seem to be pretty happy with the schools. Otherwise, I'm sure they would do something. Do something, right? Incredible where we are heading with this mess. I want to talk about Putin now, right? We have a mess at the school level, really. The local level, they want a dossier. They want a folder on you. They want to know who you are and what you believe and what you said, because that's really important. Well, folks, if the United States continues to screw with and destabilize Russia, one of Putin's friends came out and said, hey, you're looking at a nuclear dystopia here, right? The same idiotic stuff that politicians use at the local level. And yes, schools are now political organizations. You have a school board, they're elected, they're politicians. period. If you elect them, they're a politician. And then they turn around and set policy for the school to follow. And that's why there's a problem with kids. That's why there's a problem with education. Don't blame the teachers, even though they're a bunch of communist egg suckers. Blame the school boards for not enforcing the rules. Now, of course, the teachers are out of hand. In Florida, I can't remember where it was. I think it was up in Northeast Florida. They had a school district. The parents managed to kick out all the scumbags off the board, took over, and then told the school board. The school board told the parents what they will and won't teach. And the teachers said, we're going to teach what we want. We don't care what you say or think. We just don't care. We're going to teach what we want. So understand, folks, government at all levels is stupid and out of control. They think they know everything and they don't know shit. So U.S. mouthpieces with regard to Putin and the nuclear weapons, nuclear safety, nuclear war thing, they claim that they want Putin to stop rattling his nuclear saber. The same U.S. government, folks, is enjoying how scared people are that a draft, a war, nukes are used, and and destruction is possible. So we need to support the diapered chief of D.C., right? The Führer Biden. We need to support him. So the government is actually very glad that Putin's over there talking nukes. And then saying, oh, you couldn't win a nuclear war. That's not possible there, Putin. Well, it's not about winning it. It's about using it as a deterrent. Still, folks, the globalists will continue to threaten and harass Putin and Russia to keep their charade going. They do not have, folks, the power or the guts to take Putin out or to take him on. But they can antagonize him with the purpose of creating more fear. Because fear, folks, is the single greatest motivator. A friend of mine was talking on the phone with their parent today, and the parent called up and said, oh my gosh, I need to go out and get a bunch of food. We're going to be starving. There's going to be a serious food shortage, right? What do you call that? A famine. Famine. Well, yeah, Biden let some information out, right, that we're going to have shortages. Well, yeah, we talked about it on this show, but I'm not saying panic, but people are panicking because of the fear that's generated by government ineptitude and corruption, right? The Al-Qaeda, CIA, Qaeda types are going to try to undermine Russia, folks, internally. They're going to try and create protests and chaos for Russia and Putin. Expect Putin to respond viciously, folks, to any of that domestic fuckery, right? They tried it down in Kazakhstan. It failed, and Russia went down there and helped them help it fail. Then they tried doing it up in Ukraine. They're like, we're going to bring in NATO, we're going to bring in military, and Russia was like, oh, no, you don't. And they antagonized him until he, right, attacked Ukraine. And he's saying, anytime you want, you can surrender, Zelensky, right? And we'll settle this the nice way. Well, Zelensky won't surrender because the powers that be want the wealth of Ukraine. Additionally, the powers that be are enriching themselves on the fear trade. The fear, right, in the stock market, the fear on the street, the fear in Washington, D.C., the fear that people have as individuals. Can you imagine being a parasite that lives off, creates fear, and then lives off of it? That's what they're doing, folks. That's what they're doing, right? Now, this is another very interesting development that occurred today, right? What's the Putin response going to be to this, folks? Is it going to be massive response militarily or just a meh, right? Ukraine is saying that they destroyed a large Russian warship on the Black Sea, right, down there by Crimea. They're saying they destroyed it. Well, I looked into it and there was some kind of a fire. Now, they're continuing to tell us that Ukraine is winning. It's fighting back. It's fighting the big evil Russian machine. At the same time, they won't let tranny males leave the country because they all have to stay there and fight. Pretty interesting, is it not? I find it actually fascinating that they're so weak that they are demanding that their transsexuals go grab a rifle. Which way is it? Are they actually blowing up ships, shooting down Russian planes, defeating Russian tanks, as well as killing Russian troops? Find it hard to believe, but they want to tell us all these things are happening. In addition, they want to tell us that Russian troops are bombing hospitals and killing women and children. I find it rather disgusting that they're exploiting the women and children argument. They're exploiting that the same way they exploit everything else. It's for their gain. It's never to help you or me. It's always their gain, folks. So as rugged individuals, as intelligent people who do know, right, what the hell is going on, unlike the politicians who don't seem to know shit, right? Our job is to get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Get prepared, folks. Get prepared. You got a lot of trouble coming. If you feel so inclined, tell people, get a month's worth of food. Ask them, hey, how's your food bill? How's your gas bill? How do you like seeing these new high prices? And some will play it off. Well, I don't care. It's just a few bucks. Or it's not affecting me, but if my neighbor's not happy with it. Folks, everyone is actually concerned about it. Everyone is actually concerned about it. What are they going to do, though? What can they do? Again, we recommend getting prepared. Period. Best thing that can be done. Hey, chance favors the prepared mind, right? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. If the lights go out, if there's no fuel at the gas station, if there's no food on the shelves, who are you going to call? And do you think the government gives a shit and is going to do anything about it? They can't even figure out what they're doing, much less how they're going to help you, right? Only you can help you in SHTF. Godspeed to all, Semper Fi, and I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do a couple of videos, then a free for all Friday. Thank you again for the PayPal support. Every $1, every $2, every $5 donation that we've gotten there has really made a big difference. It all adds up. It helps pay the bills, right? We've got servers, we've got equipment, we've got computers, we've got staff. Not a lot, but enough that requires some payment. So thank you again. Ooman checks in and says, Kaz and Security Guy are going live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, and they're going to talk about Ukraine. Join us if you can. Good deal, Ooman. I appreciate the promo there. We do have our friends at the R Syndicate. That's Ooman, the rsyndicate.com. And especially Mr. Kaz. And also we've got Vaughn, Backcountry Preps. But there's lots of prepper channels out there, folks. Hundreds of them. And Ooman has them all listed. Their YouTube sites, their other sites. They're all listed right there at the rsyndicate.com. You guys be cool, be safe, and I'll be back soon. Keep your eyes open, head on a swivel, stay frosty.